I want to wish everybody a very happy Lunar New Year. Peace, joy, and happiness to you and yours. Thank you very much, Sarah and Grace and Winnie, for having me here and having Daniel Lowe here. It's always a great personal pleasure to be able to, I guess, talk about traditional Chinese culture, especially those who are not of Chinese ethnicity. I always feel that you build more cultural bridges where you live by explaining what it is you practice, so that there are no misunderstandings, and where we could live in a more harmonious and happy society. So when I was asked to present, I thought to myself, the topic of the Chinese dragon, and it's probably the main mythical Chinese creature in traditional Chinese culture and even thought. There are four main mythological creatures. The first is the dragon, the second being the Chinese phoenix, the third being the Chinese unicorn, or keilun as we call it. And the fourth, which is actually fairly new to me, but I knew it existed, is the Chinese turtle dragon. It's a tortoise with the head of a dragon. And if you ever been to the Forbidden City, which I've had the fortunate opportunity to go twice to, there is two large turtle dragons in front of the Hall of Supreme Harmony. And if I'm sure Sarah can bring up the picture there. So those are the four main mythological creatures in Chinese culture. There are several more, though. The list is absolutely exhaustive. I mean, there are frogs. There's a. I remember doing my research. There's a flying deer that had horns. Anyway, I'm not going to get into those because we're just going to be talking for hours and hours about them if I start talking about them. But I just want to concentrate today on just the Chinese dragon. And the Chinese dragon, what do you say about the Chinese dragon? It is like the greatest embodiment, greatest representation of Chinese culture itself. It is what is the Russian bear is to Russia, or the moose to Canada, or even beaver, or the bull to Spain. But what makes China's mythological, the creature that represents Chinese culture so unique is that it's mythological. Although in some circles, there are those who actually think it actually exists. So I'm not going to get into that. The Chinese dragon, it's a celestial creature. It comes from heaven, and it represents power, imperial authority. If you're looking back at China's imperial dynasties, wisdom, I mean, everything that is connected to power and prestige is associated with the Chinese dragon. Children who are born, there are families who hope to have children born in the year of the dragon, thinking it's an auspicious year to have children, especially to have male children. And also, what was I going to say? They also named their children Long, which is the Chinese term for dragon, Long. They named many of their sons with dragon. The dragon is seen everywhere in Chinese culture. It's seen on bowls and plates. It's embroidered in clothing. It's in scroll work. I just cannot over highlight how important the Chinese dragon is to the Chinese people and to the Chinese culture. Now, that being said, what's the best way to, I guess, bring to life this mythological creature? Well, obviously, it's at Chinese or Lunar New Year, where martial arts clubs around the world bring in a dance, this manifestation of the Chinese dragon out in the streets around Chinese New Year. It's it's held by poles, and I don't want. I guess one of the pet peeves that Sifu Lo and I have is that many people always refer to a traditional Chinese lion dance as the dragon dance, because a lot of people mistake the Chinese lion, which you could see behind me and behind Sifu Lo. It's a two-man operation. There's someone operates the head, and then someone is the tail. However, with a Chinese dragon, it's a long body with poles that are inserted into bamboo or plastic joints, and it's danced by as few as, it could be danced as few as 5 people, but the normal number, the typical number for a Chinese dragon is 9, and then it can go into a higher number, but it has to be in odd increments. Now, 9 is a very significant number to the Chinese people and to the Chinese culture. 9 means long life, and also it's just, how should I say it? It's associated with the dragon. So 9 is a very auspicious number. Now, with the dragon pearl is what leads the dragon. The pearl itself represents wisdom and power. And the dragon is always, if you see in any cultural depictions, the dragon is constantly chasing this pearl of wisdom. It's meaning it's always trying to get more wisdom. I guess also, and how you interpret it, it could also represent power. I guess it depends on what your needs are. I guess the Chinese dragon can always either be chasing power or wisdom, and it's a flaming pearl. I mean, there's some beautiful depictions of it in the sky, that it's just this round yellowish whitish ball with red flames around it, where the dragon is constantly trying to chase it. So that's carried by somebody in the parade, and he or she is sort of the lead person for the Chinese dragon dance, because wherever that pearl goes, the dragon will follow. And what else can I say about the Chinese dragon dance? Yes.
So here on the slide, you are showing us 2 types of dragons. One is the larger street dragon, and one similar to the one that your students use. Did you want to?
Yes, absolutely. So in Chinese dragon dance, there's 2 types of dragon dancing. There is what I refer to as Chinese street dragon dancing, which is a very large dragon head and a very, very long and heavy body, which is probably usually carried by about 30 people. Its aim is to be majestic and to have this presence in the parade, because it is the top animal in terms of mythological creatures for the Chinese. So I guess they say the bigger the dragon, I guess the more luck and more happiness comes to the community. Now, then you have the other type of dragon dancing, which Hsing does more of, is what we call acrobatic dragon dancing. And it's a smaller dragon. It's about 25 meter dragon. And that type of dragon dancing, which still can be danced throughout a Lunar New Year parade, it has certain movements which you couldn't do with a larger dragon, simply because the smaller dragon is more agile and it can just be moved and maneuvered more quicker than the large 100-foot Chinese dragon that you see there. The movements are quick. They mimic a dragon dancing and flying throughout the sky. There are certain movements which are very difficult. I can attest to that, because my students have tried to mimic some of the more difficult movements, and with great difficulty, we finally succeeded, but it just took hours and hours of practice and teamwork and cooperation just to get those moves down pat. We just performed a dragon dance yesterday in the Dr. Sinus courtyard, and I think Sarah, are you going to play it now for us?
Yes, this is a great opportunity to see that. And thank you, Danny, for bringing your students out for a special demonstration right across from the Hsing. And so I will play that now and would like to thank Raymond Ng from the Hsing Athletic Club for supporting the recording of that special demonstration. Okay. Sorry about that. It seems like the sound is not coming through. Let me just try that again. Can you let me know if this works? All right, let me rewind that so you can catch the full dragon dance. Everyone give a virtual round of applause for Danny. That was an incredible demonstration, Danny, and I'm amazed by the this is
Sarah.
or Danny, you're still with us?
Yes, I hear. Can you hear me? Can everyone hear me?
We can.
Oh, good, good. I will say one last thing about the dragon dance. Someone once asked me, what the dragon head, what makes up like the dragon? Like who thought of what the dragon should look like? And I thought it was a very interesting question. And in my research, which I had heard from old masters who had told me, the Chinese dragon head is made up of certain animals. It has the head or the snout of a camel or horse, depending who you talk to. It has the eyes of a rabbit, has the antlers of a stag. It has fish scales along its body, and it has tiger claws of an eagle, but the pads of a tiger. So and I didn't know that, and I thought that was very interesting when I delved more into it. And it also has ears of a cow. So, and then when I delved even further into this, there's a legend that there were several tribes in China that each tribe honored a certain animal. So when the tribes of China came together to and decided to use every characteristic of the animals that they pay homage to be part of this dragon. So I thought that was really interesting. I don't know how much truth is into that, but that's all I wanted to add. But thank you again, Sarah.
No, those are great facts to absorb, Danny. And so I think now is a great time to segue over to Daniel and Victoria, who will walk us through a dance many of you are likely familiar with, the true roots of, which is Southern Lion dancing. And so to begin, I think what Daniel's going to show us the different types of lions that are out there. There's quite a diverse variety amongst the Chinese diaspora. So welcome, Daniel.
Good morning, everybody, and I guess early afternoon. How's everybody doing? And again, thank you, Master Quon, over in Vancouver and the Hsing Athletic Club. Let's give him one more big round of applause, everybody, please. So a little bit something I guess you may have read up on about me, but I'm born and raised in Victoria, but lion dance has always been a big passion of my life. And you know, we've got some slides going up, so we might as well get right into it. Just for example, the Southern Lion is very characteristic of being very forceful, aggressive, but actually showing I guess, the skills of a martial artist school. And it was always known that their senior students who developed the foundations and the strong work ethic would be allowed to be performing the lion dance, because it was a direct relationship to the skill of the martial art teacher. There's many different lines that you see around. The first slide that we have here, you'll see the coloring. Sorry, Sarah, are we going to go over the types of lions or the colors first?
We could start with the coloring.
Okay, so we'll just use this one for example. You'll see that on this particular lion, it is, okay, so here, we'll use this picture here. The one in the black and blue or black and white one you see is actually the one right behind me. the story of Chinese legend is you may or may not have heard of the story of called Romance of the Three Kingdoms. That was when three blood brothers swore their allegiance to unify to defeat a common enemy by the name of Cho. There was actually four brothers, but only three brothers were depicted as they were the three of the more famous ones. The eldest brother is the one that you'll see on your right. You'll see it's a yellow-faced, more on the rainbow-based, white whiskers. He actually shares the same surname of myself, so I'm proud to say he's my ancestor. But his name is Lao Bei or Liu Bei. Essentially, he was the eldest of the three generals, and he was more of a tactician. He was a good general, but he was more at figuring out the tactical end of things on how to defeat the enemy. Going over to the middle, you'll see there it's a red-faced and ancestor of Master Quon. His name, you'll know him as Gong, Guan Yu, or General Quon. If you go into any Chinese restaurant or business, you'll probably see him tucked up in the kind of at an altar over the register, overlooking the register or the back of the restaurant just to oversee it. He's known as a god of war. Now, he is also famous for having think of a giant staff with a giant blade attached to it, almost similar to, I'd say it's as big as a hockey stick, I'd say. But it was meant to cut down in battle, so to cut down on the legs of the horses and actually to reach up and to be able to cut men down while they're riding on the horses. General Quon is known to have taken down 100 men in a single battle on his horse with his General Quon sword. Do you agree with that, Danny?
From the stories that my dad used to tell me, yes.
Okay.
Thank you for that very, very accurate description. Thank you, Super Low.
Yeah, and the last one that you'll see on your left here, he's the baby brother of the three. His last name is, you'll see it's phonetically spelled out as Chang, Chang, or Cheung, or Zhang. So Sheung or Zhang. His name was Zhang Fei. He was a great warrior. Out of the three, he had the endurance to take down many, many men. However, I would say General Zhang's downfall was two main things. It was his temper and his love for alcohol. And due to this, after battles, he would enjoy himself, and I'm assuming so. He would drink himself into a stupor and pass out. But he was known to have actually gotten so drunk that he would beat his own men. And rumor has it he was assassinated through mutiny, and it was his own men who took him down because of his temper and his love and fondness of alcohol. Now his colors, and he's very distinct. And I'll show you on the actual lion, but he's usually a green base with black whiskers. On mine, you'll see just underneath I guess on the cheekbone. When I had this one designed for my son and daughter, I asked for a little bit of blue background, so he's a little bit of a modern hybrid. But you'll see that just underneath the horn, underneath the red ribbon, there is green there. You can see similar here. You'll see green, but on that last one, black whiskers. The body is usually black, but can be represented in black and or white. But most importantly is if you look at his actually beard, it's a little bit shorter. It's actually supposed to be wispier, because I'm going to speak on most of Chinese people. Like most Chinese gentlemen, we can't grow facial hair. It comes out wispy. So that's why his is a little bit, his mustache is usually shorter. It's what we call toothbrush bristles. It was more scruffy. So it was more in the lines of a little bit longer than 5 o'clock shadow, but he had the shorter facial hair out of the three brothers. But combine the three of them, history was made. They were able to defeat the opposing general of Cho. And the main three traditional line colors are General Lao, General Quon, and General Zhang. We can go into the next slide now, Sarah. So you'll see this one right here. There are two types of typical Southern lions. And Southern lions, you'll see are represented more of an aggressive style, whereas the Northern lion, we rarely see here, but they more tend to have a gold face, looks more like a dog. They have just a little jaw that moves, but they have a red and yellow, sometimes gold, shaggy, long-haired bodies. But you'll see right here, this is what we consider a modern hybrid of the two lions. I don't know if you can see here, but if whoever's controlling the pictures there, on the left image where the gentleman has his foot in the air, if you can just kind of highlight near, no, the other image, other one right there, his lip is a little bit elongated, more so than mine. I'll show you. If you look at my lion here, the jaw is, he's a little bit more flat-faced. Mine is what you call a typical Fatsan. So there's two areas in China where they modeled the lions from. One was known as Buddha Mountain, and the other one is known as Crane Mountain. So the lion I have is a very traditional Fatsan lion. You can see it has the blood tassels, and actually almost like a red gland on the side of the lion. Now, with that, the one that you see on the photo there, it's actually a hybrid, or they call Hong Kong style, or a Fat Hawk. So it takes the characteristics of the front a little bit more flat. But if you can see the lip on the right image, it's a little bit more upturned a little bit. The eyes are actually stretched out a little bit more elongated compared to a perfectly round eye that you see on mine. It's a new common style that you're going to see, because as Danny grew up, he was line dancing in the crane style, the Hoxan line, which we'll see later on, which is line dance more of an angular facing down, so the face is almost vertical. Whereas with the Fatsan line, you hold it more at a 45-degree angle. You have the chin that's slightly downward, because if the line ever looks up like this, it looks somewhat weak. And because we don't want to show weakness out of the martial arts school, it's a style of dancing. So you can see right there on the left image there, the lion is actually more vertical than you would have in a typical Fatsan lion. And you can see right there on the side there, the eye is actually elongated and pointed, almost like Bambi eyes at the tips. It squeezes and pinches up from a teardrop there. Next image, please. So the one on the right with the blue body, that is a Hoxan lion. It's a little bit more flat, elongated. In Chinese culture, they call it the Hoxan lion, but also is some masters will call it the duck-billed lion, because the jaw is more short but a little bit wider. But because of the upturned flat lip that you'll see on the upper lip there, it actually resembles a duck lip. Now, the one on the left there is a modern Hoxan lion. You'll see the difference between the two is traditionally we used horsehair, and obviously nowadays we use synthetic fibers. But traditionally it was horsehair. But on the what we call the fuzzy lion, or the milk mustache lion, you'll see there on the left, that is a Malaysian or a Singapore tournament competition style lion. The lion tails used to be 12 feet long. Now they've shortened them down to about 9 to 6 feet. And you can see he's actually standing on what we call jongs, or platforms. And those platforms can be as high as 20 feet tall. The discs that they're actually standing on are maybe maximum 18 inches in diameter there. So it's quite the feat, and it's more the new style lion dance is considered more acrobatic, where it shows more the jumping skill, jumping onto the thighs, the shoulders, like what we call the one jump, where the lion tail will boost the lion head dancer to sit on what we call a head sit. And that's all more basically acrobatic. Whereas the traditional lions you're going to see is more ground style. Back in history, shopkeepers at Chinese New Year, they'd have offerings, which we'll go into later on. But they would set traps or puzzles for the lion dancer. And the skill of the lion dancing instructor and the master was really dependent on how to break down this puzzle. Because you would see, let's say, a crab that was made out of a wooden basin flipped on upside down, and chopsticks to use its feet and claws. And like a real crab here on the West Coast, Dungeness crab, if you go head on with the crab, he will snap you. So you had to take 1 foot of the line to step on the upturned wooden basin to make sure the crab doesn't run away. And then you had to use the other foot to swipe or claw away, first at the claws, first the eyes to blind it, then the claws to maintain safety, then the legs, then you open up the crab to get the bounty on the inside. Next photo, please. So you'll see on the left picture that more of the yellow base, that is not modern, but it's a modern take and design on the traditional Hoxan lion. You'll notice again, the duckbill, they're using what I believe it could be a kind of a frayed out chicken feather. They call it gaimo, so a chicken feather, and it could be ram's fur that they've combed out. And you'll see that the eyelashes are, Kim Kardashian would be jealous with the eyelashes on that one. And then on the right, that is, again, that's a modern style. You'll see the eye is very elongated there. And again, it's using the same style of wispy fur around the eyes, the eyelashes. And the mustache isn't puffy, but it's actually wispy there. And now that green lion represents the fourth brother, which is General Chu, Chiu, or Zhao if you speak Mandarin. So he is the fourth sworn blood brother of the pact. Next picture. Wow. Oh, go ahead. That's fine.
No, I think we walked through. Those are the ones in the Vancouver site that we'll show at the end.
Okay. So I'm going to go into the history of lion dance. We've heard, I'm sure we've all read in the newspaper, heard somewhere, there is what we call the exorcism or the Neem monster theory, which was a mountainside village every year around spring for the spring harvest, which is the Lunar New Year. A creature would come down and ravage the crops, kill livestock, and scare away the villagers. He made a horrible sounding noise as it cried out, and it was Nian, Nian, which sounds like the Chinese word for year. So we call it the annual monster. And so the villagers were thinking, how do we go about on preventing him from coming every year? Well, we have an idea. Let's take, and back in the day, they had, a rattan shield, or it was a basket of some sort. They painted a face on it. They tied fabric cloth to the back that was brightly colored. They got their woks. They got whatever utensils, the ladles, whatever they had, and made noise. And maybe they had a drum, whatever it was. But that is one of the theories of how the lion dance started. Now, there's many different incarnations of the theories. Another one is actually goes back not that far from now, because it actually deals with, instead of thousands of years, this theory is maybe, hundreds of years old. And it goes back to the Ming and the Qing dynasty. So when we lion dance, or when I say we, when Danny and I lion dance, one of the things that we do is when we go bless a store, yes, we're warding off the ear of the spirit. So it's like an exorcism. However, what the store offers is a green of some sort. It could be bok choy. It could be, I've seen green spring onions, but usually it's lettuce. And the reason why they use lettuce is lettuce has a double meaning in Chinese culture. We call it sang choy. Sang meaning lively or life, and choy meaning vegetable. But we also use that word sang in business. So a lively business. So in order to do it, and choy sounds like the word for, like when you say gung hei fat choy, that actually sounds like prosperity. So lively prosperity. So a store, a business, or anybody who wants to give you an offering will give you lettuce. And they're trying to bless their establishment for lively prosperity coming forward. Now, going back to the overthrow the Qing dynasty and restore the Ming dynasty, because the government was taken over many years ago, However, the Ming Dynasty had a very loyal following. They weren't agreeing with what the Qings were doing. So there was almost an underground espionage going on, almost James Bondish. So stores and or other spies would hang out in the lettuce notes of where to meet for the next meeting, tactical messages of what they want to do and what can they do to overthrow the Qing dynasty. And so these messages were hidden inside this lettuce so they could pass it. So it was more of an espionage. So when we call it Choi Chang, it's actually let's get the Qings. It's just a play on words. So that's the main two theories that I'm going to bring up today about Chinese lion dance. I think Sarah now has a short video that we're going to set up there. Do we know what video we're doing? So I can just give a quick intro.
Yes, Danny. It's your Lion Dance New Year's film that was just performed about a week ago.
Oh, is this the clip with this one and then the one on the bench?
Yes.
Okay, so our club, the Wangshan Kung Fu Club, over the past 2 years due to the global pandemic, we've celebrated virtually now for the second year. And we put together a clip that we launched on Chinese New Year's Day, which just happened to be February 1st. And I'm pretty sure we'll attach a link somewhere for this later on. But it's our way so we can, and you know, Chinese or most Asian cultures that celebrate Lunar New Year, it's all about meaning. So just because you view this video at home, your home is being blessed. It's getting this blessing and protection of the lion.
And Daniel, would you like me to show the dotting of the I portion at the beginning?
Yeah. We'll show the dotting of the I. And am I able to do voice over the video so I can explain what he's doing?
We could if you don't want the music to be playing.
Well, it's just he's just gonna be doing poems and he's reading poems. So just for the dotting part, I can explain exactly what's happening there.
And thank you for giving that background. It's very fascinating. It's fascinating to hear the stories of how the dance began.
Yeah, thank you.
All right. Well, hopefully this comes through strong enough. As a few of you have noticed, Danny and I are sharing a connection in order to bring you this lively background at the Hsing. So it's not the strongest, but we will do our best here.
It was established in 1974 in Victoria, BC, on the land and territory of the Lekwungen people by the late Grandmaster Wong Sifu, or Master or Grandmaster Wong Sheung.
新年快樂，恭喜發財. Welcome to the 2022 Virtual Chinese New Year celebration presented by the Wangshan Kung Fu Club.
When a lion first arrives to its club, it has never been awakened or dotted. The meaning for awakening or dotting the lion means that it tells the lion it has a purpose. So the club will dot its eyes so it can see. It'll bring health and protection. Dotting the ears will give it righteousness and responsibility of its actions. Then you dot and paint the teeth and mouth, and essentially the authority is awakened on the lion.
點個兩眼放光明，頭腦有靈性，好讓我全體健兒，身體常健康，四季永康寧。
Then you dot the horn and you tie the ribbon, which brings the lion to life. It's the red ribbon acts as though it's the blood of the lion, and to be a good guardian.
洗個左右兩邊耳，四方八面要注意，值得睡你就睡，值得醒你就醒。 同你刷牙又朗口，高低咬青莫尋謀，有龍之槍用角鬥，凡事不得強出頭。
Then you drag and paint from the head all the way to the tail, as everything that is good must have a beginning to an end. And then it goes into other things.
So that's an overview of the donning of the. Just going to skip over to a portion of the dance itself.
國泰民安，華埠繁榮，旗開得勝，鑼鼓齊鳴，起鼓！
Okay, I think that's a good note to end on as you get blessed by the lettuce being spewed out. We do encourage you to the full performance. It's close to a half an hour. But Daniel, did you want to comment before we talk about percussion?
No, that's fine. I was just going to explain. So what happened there was we woke up the two lion cubs because those are two children's lions that we had done up. So like I said, mentioned, you dot the eyes, dot the ears, dot the mouth, but also the horn, and some schools will dot the and I'll show you here on this one. Right on the forehead, there's actually a mirror. Some clubs will dot the mirror, some people don't. And what that does is that just comes down to, I believe that's part of the warding off the evil spirits, is because you have the mirror. They say in some cultures, a spirit of some sort cannot see itself in a mirror. If it does, it kind of poof, goes away. And so in Chinese culture, they consider that the third eye for the lion, or the spiritual eye, and they use that for exorcism for that part of it. So they dot that, and again, I was saying you will dot from the horn all the way to the tail of the lion back up, because all good things must have a beginning and an end. So they have a saying, 點到由頭，點到尾，好頭好尾. So which means that there's a good beginning to a solid end. And so with that, then the lion wakes up, and you can hear, and we'll go into the percussion. You'll have the drum, the cymbal, the gong. That's the heartbeat of the lion. But when the lion wakes up, then it must eat right away. And this is kind of segueing to one of the theories, is that a Buddhist monk went into the forest and the mountains and found a lion. And lions aren't native to China, but they found the lion. And because the monk was Buddhist, it was able to tame the lion by tying a red ribbon on its head, and it basically gave him kind of a master obedience over the lion. But because the Buddhist monk is vegetarian, the lion was only a vegetarian, did not eat meat at all. And due to that, once the lion wakes up, it must feast because it's been in slumber. And once it feasts, I guess its owner or its master is there to, I'll give you the food, but you must follow and obey. And that's what that is. So once a lion wakes up, technically it should eat right away.
Thank you, Daniel. Now we're going to talk a little bit about percussion, and we're lucky that Danny has some instruments with him. So Danny, did you want to strike the gong, and perhaps Daniel can walk us through?
Sure. I have at my disposal here some of our cymbals and gongs. I just want to make sure this works. Can I take out my earbuds? Okay, that's okay. So we have the lion gong. Now the lion gong is a deep sound, as Sifu Lo said, and it sounds like. You hear that? It's all cast iron. It's fairly heavy. We have a much more heavier one in the back room that dates back to the 50s, but the newer gongs now are about, I would say, this is probably 12-inch diameter, and it's okay. You could carry it from place to place, but it does have a deep sound. So we use this for lion dancing. Then for dragon dancing, because it is a celestial creature and it has to have its own special kind of music and percussion, this is a dragon gong to herald the arrival of the dragon. So it's a much more twangier sound as compared to the lion gong, and they probably, I think they use this gong in Chinese opera as well. But for the dragon dances that I've observed, they use a type of gong like this, or even a larger one with a much more pronounced twangier sound, just because it just sounds different from the lion gong. And then we have the cymbals, which Chinese lion dance cymbals are these. They're about the same diameter almost as the lion gong, and it basically sounds like regular cymbals. So dragon cymbals can get quite large, like especially for the street dragon performances that are paraded. The cymbals could be as wide as like 15, 20 inches like diameter. But for the dragon dances that we perform, we just use the regular line dance cymbals just to accompany the dance. So, and that's my talk about percussion.
If I can just interject a little bit there, Danny.
Sure.
So about the gongs, they're actually, if you see one up close, traditionally the gongs are hand hammered. So you'll see little ridges. I don't know if you can hold it up close on the face of it. They're not entirely smooth. And those marks aren't made from the mallet that we hit it with. Those are actually the hand hammering. And like you said, from the, and it can be copper, it can be iron, just depending, but you can see little ridges on there. That's all hand done. And,
Yes,
and when you smell it, it smells like a penny.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
exactly.
guess one giant penny that can make noise.
Exactly.
But yeah, but I will say this: the older gongs are much more superior in quality than these newer ones that have come out recently. The sound is just much more deeper. It's more loud. You don't have to actually hit it that hard, and there's a reverberation that just continues on. Whereas these gongs, which are still okay, it's just not as good as the ones that the old masters used to make back in the 30s and the 40s.
I'll comment on that as well. As so, yeah, the new gongs, I think they could be, you know, they're finished by hand, but I think they're probably pressed now. When you hit them, it almost sounds like, on some of them, what I found is that there's some metal that's vibrating. Like there's like, you know, when you chip a plate and you put it down on the table, you hear that little vibration. You'll get that kind of a metal kind of a vibration in the gong. Whereas in the old ones, the only thing I can think of that you can think of an old clock tower, those old big brass bells, and or you know, if you ever hear from the old cowboy movies or what, the Undertaker's that dong, and it just kind of, it keeps on vibrating for a little
Yeah,
while.
that's
The
right.
older gongs just have that, because of the resonation in the gong, it just continues and continues and continues, and you actually have to use your hand on the backside to stop it. And if you play with it, if you play the gong too much, you have to switch out, because then you've got so much vibration in your hands that your fingertips go numb after a little bit of while because of that.
That's correct.
Yeah, and then obviously you saw Danny, and actually in the video that I was doing myself, we were both drumming, and I know Danny's a very accomplished drummer, and I have to say, when I saw him as a young child, probably not that young, but probably as a young teenager, I saw Danny drumming in Vancouver. Obviously, he didn't know of me, because at that time, and even now, I'm nothing compared to Sifu Quon there. But I saw him drumming, but it's a wooden frame that is hand pulled cowhide over the edges, and they use brass, not rivets, but nails, big fat nails, to hold it in. Usually 3 rows, and believe it or not, inside the drum. Obviously, you know, with drums, you always want to tilt it open so the air can pass out. But the higher quality drums have more of these reverberation springs on the inside. A low quality drum might have 4 or 6 of them. A high quality will have upwards of 8 or even more,
right.
and dual layered. So at the top near to the skin, and a second layer near the bottom underneath that rattan ring on the exterior there. And then obviously you've got different styles. In Chinese line dancing, you'll see the cowhide stretch. You'll have 2 or 3 rings of rivets holding it to the wood base, but you'll see the ringlets that were created by the manufacturers when they pull. So they hooked on to the cowhides to stretch over the drum, and those holes will still be apparent. Now, if you go into Vietnamese culture, they'll usually have 3 up to 5 you'll have 3 to 5 rows of the rivets around the outside, and that's actually clean cut right at the last rivet line. And so there's no extra, like the skin that hangs up off the side of the drum. You won't see that in a Vietnamese style. And also a Vietnamese style gong, when they lion dance, it's more, I think it's stainless steel that they use, or it's whatever, because it's a different sound, number one. They plate it in almost like a chrome, and they use actually a metal
mallet. A
mallet to hit it.
Yeah.
And their beats are slightly different than ours, because their gong has its, like, even though we have an independent beat, their gong plays off the offbeat very often, and their cymbals are actually, if you look at tournament martial artists, when they use the swords that are flimsy and they go, those ones, their cymbals are made of that it's almost like an aluminum or tin that they use, and they're extremely thin. And I was just gonna say about the cymbals that we use in lion dance. Our cymbals usually curve out at the bottom edge bell, whereas a dragon dance cymbal, usually they curve in and are totally flat at the contact points.
Thank you, Daniel and Danny. So we're going to launch into the Q&A portion. And related to gongs, we have a question from Shirley in Toronto. For the older gongs, are they heavier and are more solid types of metals used?
They are very heavy. Actually, I should get the one in the back out, but I think it's under all this junk. But anyways, it's very heavy. It's probably triple the weight and size of the one that I just showed the audience right now. You just can't get those gongs anymore. We tried to order another one, and the person who we said, the old masters who used to make those gongs are now sadly all gone. And now they're, as Sifu Lo was saying, the newer gongs now are just, just assembly lined manufactured, and it's just really sad. You just don't get that same deep, rich tone when you hit it. Yeah.
So I'll add it on that. Regarding those old gongs, I'm gonna say they're probably gonna be 24 inches in diameter. The side profile is probably at least minimum 4 inches side profile, minimum.
Yeah.
The thickness is, I would say, the thickness of them is probably half of a ballpoint pen of the actual thickness of the gong itself. Now, Danny, next time you come to Victoria, let me know in advance. I think we may have 3 or 4 of those giant gongs.
You should treasure them. Treasure them, Daniel. Well, try not to use them too much. Otherwise,
the thing is that we can't use them because the carts that we have now don't fit them.
That's right. That's right.
Right. And you can't carry them. They're more good for, because you can't put them on a stand. The stand will fall over.
They'll fall over. Our cart will probably tip over too on the side as well if we put it on our new stand, our new cart.
Yeah, exactly. Next question.
All right, next question. So from Amy. It was mentioned that the Hsing Club meets on Saturdays. Can anyone come or become a member, or is this only for Hsing surname members? If so, and one more question, if so, can children come and learn lion and dragon dancing, and how old do they have to be?
Absolutely, but just now, because we're still in the midst of the pandemic, we have put a pause on our in-class training. We did come back together recently just because the Lunar New Year was just around the corner, but there's just still some concerns. I know provincial restrictions are due to be lifted soon, but you know how some overcaring parents can be, especially if they're Chinese parents. So we still have a pause on our in-class training still. Until which time it's a safe opportunity to do so. Membership is usually by referral. We are a private club, but we do welcome people to come up to watch and see if they want to try their hand at it. But of course, during better times when this COVID has lifted off of us.
And Daniel, did you want to comment on how people could join the Wong Sheung Club?
So right now, again, due to the global pandemic.
Oh,
Oh, Daniel
did,
has,
did we lose Daniel?
he may have accidentally hopped off, but I'm sure he will join soon. So
Okay.
Danny, it's just you and me in the
Okay.
hot seat. Are the newer lions lighter compared to the older vintage ones?
Absolutely. We have old lions from 10, 15 years ago, and we also have lions that we just bought last year. The quality is just not there anymore. I guess everywhere they're just trying to save on materials. Unless you tell them explicitly you want it a certain thickness, you want certain different materials for the joints and the inner materials that make up the lion head. But you know, I've been doing this for almost 35, 40 years now, and I've seen the new lions just break so much more easily than the older lions. So that, yeah, and they're much lighter too. I guess that in a way that's a trade-off, because if the lion is lighter, then the dancers have more energy and more stamina to continue on with their shows. But with the older lions, I guess in terms of long-term life, you know, the existence of the lion, I guess the older ones just last longer. That's all I can say.
Thanks, Danny.
Yeah, hold on.
Daniel,
Sorry for the
has
technical
been back.
difficulties.
See Hello is
Just
back.
a second, Daniel. We just want to pin you as a speaker. Perhaps I'll get Winnie to help out with that.
Just let me know when I'm on.
All right, I found you. Welcome back,
Okay.
Danny. Or
Sorry
Daniel,
for the sorry for the technical difficulties, everybody. So I was saying that due to the pandemic, our training situation changed a little bit. So right now we aren't. We are accepting inquiries about training with us. However, our training situation right now, we're just trying to keep the circle really closed right now. So I would suggest hopefully you'll have a link to our website that you can post up on somehow, and they can get in touch with our admin, which is Justin Lee, and he can probably give some more information about training in Kung Fu and or lion dance as well.
Sounds great, Daniel. And wow, the questions are really pouring in here.
Oh, no worries. But I noticed that Danny was talking about the lion itself. I just want to bring this here so people can see the inside of a lion. So I'm going to try my best here. You'll see at the back, whoops. You'll see at the back, there's a cushion so you can rest your head. And you know, it takes a lot of balance to work. This is the string that you pull. And when you pull the string, the eyes blink and the ears move. But like you said, like Danny was saying, that inside to making a lion, I'll just put this back. It's just holding it is awkward. So making the lion, I guess there's 5 steps. One is called jap. So what happens is you take the rattan frame, and then it's, you know, but nowadays some clubs are using PVC piping and aluminum in the Malaysian kind of competition lines. But you have that. Then you have, I think it's they call it tying. So they use almost like a tissue paper, and they kind of twist it up so it becomes strong. And they make this paste out of starch and water. And the masters, what they do is they put a dab of like this glue on their hand. They touch it and they use at the very end to glue it to seal the, I guess, the knot itself. But they don't use string. It's just strips of paper. And then from there, it's paw, which is the application of basically paper mache. But they're using these strips of fabric and or paper, and then they're kind of painting this glue on. Now in between there, the new modern lines, they'll put like 2 to, I'd say 5, depending on the quality of the lion, 2 to 5 layers of gauze fabric in between for durability. And then you have the painting. And then after the painting, it's the details. And earlier I was mentioning that you'll see on the Malaysian lions and like the ones that Danny has behind him there. If you look at the, if I'm saying correctly, the motif on the back line will look like flames. Am I right there, Danny? Are they
Let me
flames?
turn one around. Yeah, they should be. I can't even remember.
Yeah, so you can see, and it's like a laser paper. It's like a reflective paper that they're using. Yeah, so it is it's a flame motif. So what they're doing now is these factories, rather than hand calligraphy painting all these lines, they're using these stencils and these laser papers that they just pre-cut because they know the size, and they just go on top. Flames are easier to paint. It's less intricacy, but however, this is when I ordered this, I made sure that it was very traditional. You can see these right here. These are called dagger marks. So they call it 刀仔紋. So you got to think every single one of those is a master doing an uptick on every single one. And it's just not one color. You have the white base, then you have the green, then the blue, then the black. And around the eyes, and depending on who makes the eyes, you'll see your lines there, Danny, black and white.
Yes.
Just black and white, but it's only two rings, right?
That's right. That's right.
So if you go, so it's a 2-ring eye. Traditionally, if Danny, I don't know if you ever noticed this, if you look at the old school lions that are made in Guangdong or Canton, 3 rings. And I'm just gonna bring my iPad over here just so you can see a little bit of the detail here. You see the inner ring right here, the secondary ring, but look at yours.
Yeah.
So that's very unique to the Malaysian style. And how they actually do this fade is this is very interesting, is the white base is done, the black, and then they use a paintbrush that's like not a calligraphy brush, but they're using almost like a fatter paintbrush. They dip it in water and they run it. They write it on there on the edge to basically to blur it. And then here, I'll show you another close-up of just the dagger marks. So you got to think about the labor intensity to do this. So, like for example, this line that I had ordered, I think just the paintwork alone, compared to what they quoted me, was probably an extra 100, 150 US just to get the dagger marks on this one, because it takes more. It's just more skillful. It takes more time. And then lastly is sorry.
Oh, related to this, could you comment on where these lions get traditionally made and if all orders are customized?
Okay, so they have these factories now, like just massive factories. The great makers are either all passed away or nobody's taking on the job, because the back then lion dance, it wasn't a glorious I guess career.
Yeah.
So there's some makers in Hong Kong right now that are following the tradition. Like they have Hong Si Lao, Master Yu in Hong Kong, and then you have Master Chung, and he learned his craft, I believe, from a master in Singapore. And a couple of the lines that I took from his Facebook site. So the makers in Hong Kong, you can pay up to 3,000 US per lion. Because of their demand. If you go into China, one of the last great lion makers, last name was Laiga. He was actually part of the Guangzhou musical instrument factory, where almost every lion dancer, essentially the old school guys, that my teacher and Danny's teachers, they all bought their lions from this factory. But then the factory back then were these skilled artisans that would put these lines together. And now the world famous Malaysian lion dance team, where Danny Quon's lines are manufactured, or they resemble, are manufactured by a gentleman by the name of H.P. Xiao. His last name is Xiao. He is world renowned. He's actually the team captain or team leader of KSK, or Guan Sing Bonglong. they're a lion and dragon dance team out of Malaysia. Like I would say multi-time world championships from the Genting World Championships every year. And his lions are made from aluminum, rattan, PVC piping because they have to withstand and they have to be light because they're the ones that are jumping on the platforms. But you know, they'll finish the new lions now. They'll spray lacquer on them to make them a little bit more durable. But Danny and I both know, you know, we used to help our masters repair our lions. The old lions you could repair. The new ones, it's like punching a hole through drywall. Just there's only so much you can do. You can't really repair them.
No.
One last thing is the old lions. How they used to test the frames. I don't know if any have heard this. They would, you know, the average person weighed maybe 120 pounds in China. You could stand on a lion and it wouldn't break. But again, those lions are really heavy.
No, they don't make them like that anymore, Super Low.
I wouldn't want to dance with one of them, I'll tell you that.
No.
For those of you who are interested, I did want to add that at our exhibition at the Hsing, there is a virtual reality station where you can see one of the last traditional lion head makers in one of the small villages in Hoiping in southern China. So that's a really neat opportunity that we have, as well as one of the traditional drum makers. It is 12:30, so for those of you who need to head out for lunch, we do thank you for joining us today. But predicting that Danny and Daniel are a fountain of knowledge to share, they have kindly agreed to stay a bit longer.
Yeah, I'm good with that.
For those of you who want to answer your burning questions, we will stay on a little bit longer to address them. I'm sorry for my echo. I think it's coming from Danny.
Oh, sorry. My apologies.
No worries. I do want to jump to Elizabeth's question. She's 5 years old from Vancouver. And her question is, why do lions have mustaches?
Do you want me to take that one, Danny, or do you want?
Please, no, I don't even know the answer to that, Super Low. So you please take that.
You know, I don't, and you know, I've done my research quite diligently, not just for today, but I've used lion dance as research topics in papers in high school and in college. You know what? Through all of the research I've seen, I've never actually encountered that. My assumption is obviously this doesn't look like Simba from Lion King, right? In my opinion, it more resembles a tiger because of the stripes than it does a lion. But I think because the tiger was already in the zodiac, they used the lion as, you know, the creature to use. And I think it's just decoration, because if you know, I've seen pictures of lions without any facial hair, and let's see if I can pull one up of this lion getting made. It looks very weird without, so it could be just to give it a little bit more aggression and a little bit of authority and forcefulness. What are your thoughts, Danny?
Sorry about that. I was muted.
Here, so you tell me, like, how does that look with any facial hair? And let's see if I get the
It looks
picture.
very smooth, like a hairless cat.
Yeah, so here.
Very fierce looking. I wouldn't want that.
Yeah. That was a great question, Elizabeth. Happy New Year, by the way.
Yes, thank you, Elizabeth. And I think we'll all take away the milky mustache as one of the lions that Daniel taught us about.
Yeah.
A couple of similar questions on, you know, are these performances reserved for festivals? Perhaps you can comment on other occasions when lions and dragons are brought out. And do the routines differ between clubs, or are there some standard routines that different clubs share?
Well, for dragon dance, it's a rare occurrence. I mean, you only see it around Chinese New Year, just because of the number of people that are required to dance it. Lion dance happens around the year. I mean, we do weddings, as Daniel group probably does a lot of weddings, grand store openings. But I guess people most associate line dancing with Chinese New Year or Lunar New Year. But to answer the question, we do it year round for special occasions such as even baby banquets. When a baby is born, the family may want to celebrate 100 days of life for the child, and they will invite us to do a blessing with the lion, with the baby. With regards to the different routines, there are several routines that you can go through that a lion dance can be made of. But the most standard routine is just basically getting the greens, which Daniel will probably be able to explain more of, which is just basically a very, very common approach to the lettuce. And the lion eats it, he's happy, he dances. Basically, that's your set routine. But the routines can get very complex. Like it could be danced on benches. The lions can dance on tables. The lions, as you saw earlier, the lions can dance on very high poles. You have to have a very good safety, a backup plan. I mean, for those types of line dances, because a lot of places such as my club, we just don't have the height. And if you try to do those pole hopping, we call it hopping on poles. I mean, you might just fall on the ground and hit the ceiling. Our ceilings are only 9 feet, 10 feet high. I mean, I think for that kind of line dancing, I think you need really, really high ceilings. So what do you think about that, Daniel?
Yeah, I would say for us, Chinese New Year or association anniversaries are what you're going to see here in BC. I know of our lion dance brethren in New York, for example. Mid-autumn is really big, around September, October, and they'll do store-to-store big gala in Chinatown, in Manhattan, in Flushing, Chinatown. They'll do that. Obviously, in Hong Kong, for example, they have in Tuen Mun, which is the kind of near the harbor district. They have the Tin Hao Dan, which is the goddess of she's the deity that protects the fishermen. And so I think her birthday was very recently. I think it was past couple months, and I know they do a big lion dance and a big offering at the I guess it's a local dirt yard where they have like the big like 30-foot bamboo kind of altars that they bring out and dance, and they do all that. So I would say lion dance is all dependent on which area you're from and what they do. Now also we were talking about certain types of dances. Danny was saying the most, I guess, traditional ones is what they call CG Chotong, which is a lion comes out of its cave. That's one of the original kind of, and when we come out, when we bring the lions out of our clubhouses for the year, it's actually a version of CG Chotong, which means that it comes out, but it must go back in a certain way. You can't just willy-nilly go in, turn around, and come back. There's certain order. You must, lick the doorway, just like as a dog would sniff things, a lion would lick and sniff the doorway of things. I'd say that one. They have another one called Siti Sheung, which is just a lion goes on stage. And that was more of a presentation lion dance that you see. And then they have more traditional puzzles, we'll say, like I said, the crab. They have one called the venomous snake blocks the road.
The snake, yeah.
They have the drunken lion. So they have a few old school traditional that are still passed down, and they've been modified to suit today's day and age. But those are just the ones that I can think of off the top of my head. And I remember when my teacher taught me, when it was the venomous snake blocks the road, I'm pretty sure I only knew of one before he told me another. One of them was you have the lettuce, you have two oranges of the eyes, and you have two butterfly swords as the fangs and you have a staff or a spear. And when the lion takes down the animal, then the two lion dancers must come out and do a fighting sequence with the two butterfly swords and the staff and spear. Right, Danny?
Yep, yep. I remember doing that when I was younger. I remember
Okay.
the two butterfly swords.
Now, there's another one that I didn't realize is you actually use a sash as the snake, and you put a piece of candy at the front. And my Sifu said it depends on, is the snake guarding the doorway? Is his tail to the doorway, or is his head to the doorway? And you approach the animal differently depending on how it's aligned with the doorway or entrance to the building. And if it's a piece of candy, I think he was saying, this is many years ago. My master's been gone for 20 some odd years. But I think he said if there was a candy within or with the snake, I think it was known as, it was venomous but friendly, but it wasn't deadly. Again, it was so long ago, and he just mentioned it in passing because you never saw that version anymore. Everybody just did the butterfly swords and the staff or spear.
Wow, there could be a whole series on this. We
There
might
could
have to
be.
invite you back.
It could be.
I don't mind.
Related to this, another viewer has asked that they've often seen someone in a mask in a blue robe teasing the lion. And can you talk about what this role is in the lion den?
The happy Buddha monk.
Big-headed Buddha.
Dai Tao Fat, the big-headed Buddha. He's a bit of a court jester. He's a bit of a clown. My knowledge of the Dai Tao Fat is very limited, so maybe Sifu Lo can elaborate on it. But he's a bit of a clown, and he interacts with the lion, taunting the lion. I mean, we don't use the big head Buddha character much in our routines, but in years past, from what I could remember, the Dai Tao Fat, or the big head Buddha, just basically just taunts the lion. The lion basically brushes him away, so he's just part of the act. But in terms of any sort of cultural connotations with his involvement, I'm not too certain. So I'm going to have to defer that back to Daniel Lowe here.
Okay, so regarding the big-headed monk or that, there's two theories on it. One of them is the court jester theory. The other theory is that he is actually the lion tamer. So he has. Remember how I was mentioning how a monk found a lion in the mountains, and he was able to tame the lion? This monk can be represented with this big-headed Buddha, they call. When you see him walk around, he has very distinct movements. It depends who you see dancing. The traditional ones is he actually, and I know the movements. This might look, but it's like this. He moves like this, but it may look just like he's moving, but they're actually martial art moves. So like they're actually like sweeps like this, and how he takes his steps.
There's blocks as well. Yeah.
Blocks and strikes. Yeah. You'll see him sometimes carrying a fan, and you'll see him like lying down, and he'll dance around, rubbing his belly. And yet he taunts the lion, but he's known as the lion tamer. But also sometimes you'll see him almost like with a brush, not really a fan, but it's like more like wispy. It's a gathering of like wispy leaves. I have actually seen in traditional lion dance competitions online where they have a big-headed monk dance routine where like Danny, when they use the chesting, dun 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 dun, and then dun 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 dun. When they do that, they're all things like, so they can do brushing and teeth. So I've seen them with a towel. They have a basin, and so dun 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 dun
yes.
dun dun, and then dun, they're wringing out the towel, washing the face. So dun 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 dun.
His movements go with the beat. And
exactly. Yeah. So if you look hard enough, you'll find it. I found it before, so I know it exists.
All right, winding down to the last two questions. Why do lions have horns?
Okay.
That's a good question.
I'll start with this one, and maybe hop in if I miss any points.
Sure.
So the horn, because the lion's mythical, it has spiritual powers. One theory is that that's the only way, I think, we'll call it God had sent the lion to Earth. And the only way to be able to control this animal, this wild animal, and being the spirit of the animal is, I'm going to bring this over to the lion again.
Most mythical
So the
creatures,
horn,
Daniel, do have a horn. The Kalun,
exactly.
the unicorn has a horn. The dragon obviously has one. So I guess, yeah, this is to note that I don't want to call it a a heavenly being, but
I say spiritual.
spiritual being. That's right.
And with a tying the red ribbon in it, it's like the leash. And it was
Yeah.
only placed, I was saying, to essentially put the leash on this wild spiritual animal. And because because when you lion dance and you've been taught lion dancing, you're not to pick up the lion by the horn, because of that is, the spirit, the soul of the lion can be there, because the ribbon is there. The ribbon acts as the blood of the lion, so you're not supposed to be touching it. So I would say that could be one of the reasons behind the horn. And if you go back, lion dance, when two clubs used to meet in the streets, they would fight. And I'm pretty sure you could have used back in the day the horn as a instrument of destruction.
Right. I'm just touching up the red bow on my line here. Sorry.
Now, to conclude, I'm going to ask Sophie's question. Are there any good resources or books in English that talk about lion dance history?
I'll get it.
And I know Daniel has one. Daniel has one in his home.
Daniel probably has the only copy in North America.
Yeah, the unfortunate thing, it's a very rare resource. But
Yeah,
when Daniel comes back, we'll talk about maybe some more common ones.
Okay.
That's his
So
Bible
I
there.
think I think this right here is it mirrored, or can you see, is it right?
No, I
the
get
right
it.
way?
Chinese lion dance
Explained. So this was the doctorate thesis paper for a William C. Hu. I use this quite extensively for my papers. Let's see how many pages this thing is. It's over 400 pages long, and basically it breaks down. So you can see right here, it's got pictures of children's lions. So it talks about the history, entomology. It says, colors. Red is loyalty and uprightness. Black is simplicity, straightforwardness. Blue is ostinacy and ferocity. Yellow is hidden craftiness and cleverness. Green is wickedness and used for the ghosts and devils. And white is wickedness, viciousness, and craftiness. Like those are the things. Like here's a picture of these lion dance factories in China where they mass produced these back in 70s and 80s. Here's a picture of a northern lion. So I've tried to find copies of this book elsewhere. I've seen them online. They're asking some people $2,500 US. It was, I think, printed in 1994, and they only did one run or edition. So hopefully we can, as a group with the Chinese Canadian Museum, we can, everybody who logged on today, we can send a letter and hopefully we can get the book. I bet you this book was maybe at most $70 because it's a hardcover. But I personally would love to have another copy. Like you can see the detail.
Daniel, how did you get your copy again?
I don't wanna say per se here.
Oh.
It does sound like an amazing resource. And
so here's another one. Here's a fiery lion dance, and it even depicts on how the dance is performed.
Oh, neat.
Wow.
So Daniel, it's called Chinese Lion Dance Explained.
Yeah.
All right. Helen here says that she found one for $995 US on Amazon.
However,
right.
when you click on it, it may not even be available. It could be an old link. Trust me, I've done my research to look for one.
So everyone, don't swarm Daniel's house, but we'll have a conversation about how to make that more accessible.
Yeah, sorry. Another few books is and you know, I know him through the line dance community. His name is Ernie Wan. Danny, you know, you've heard of Ernie Wan?
No, I haven't. I'm sorry.
Do you remember the book that you used to borrow at the library called Ernie Wan Lion Dancer? It was about a little boy and his little brother and his older sister. His dad was Master Wan Qiming in New York City.
Oh,
Remember in the book it shows him playing drums with chopsticks on a chair, and his little brother, they'd have to wear new clothes, and then they dot lines on New Year's Eve, and then they're up late, and his uncle and everything. So the book is called Lion Dancer, Ernie Wan. I've had the pleasure to not meet him personally, but I've met him. He's a nice guy. And you know, to me, he was a celebrity as a child, because I remember I read his book. So I'll just get a picture of it.
nice.
And I'm pretty sure you've read this.
Oh, I read it. I remember it. Now that you mention it, I remember that book very well from my youth. That's what actually got me interested in line dancing.
Yeah, there was a few books in my school library that I looked up because I was into lion dancing. Another one was called Gong Hei Fa Choi. It was a yellow book. I remember that.
A ton of interest. So we may need to compile all this after the program and then send it out to everyone.
That's fine.
Cool.
And you know, I want to thank Sifu Danny. Thank you very much for joining me, Sarah. Thank you for being the moderator. Chinese Canadian Museum, thank you for presenting and being a host of this event. You know, on behalf, thank you, Shirley. I see you're just the first one there. Everybody, I can't say hi to everybody, but on behalf of the Wong Kung Fu Club here in Victoria, BC, and the Chinese citizens here in Victoria, BC, I'd like to wish you all a happy Chinese New Year. 恭喜發財，新年快樂，萬事如意。And
I echo Dan Sifu Lo's comments too on behalf of the Hsing Athletic Club of Vancouver. We want to wish everyone nothing but good health, prosperity, peace, and joy in this year of the tiger. And thank you for having both Sifu Lo and myself here to try to impart some of our knowledge. We didn't. I don't know if we did a great job, Sarah, but
you did an amazing job.
We just hope that, I think with talking about what we do in our culture, it doesn't matter if it's a Chinese culture, another culture. I think it just builds more bridges, more cultural bridges.
Couldn't have said it better. And I do want to conclude by also thanking both of you, Danny and Daniel, from all of us at the Chinese Canadian Museum, and everyone who tuned in today. You may not have seen, but the comments are pouring in with gratitude and a lot of questions and curiosity. And so I hope this sparks that inspiration for all of us to continue our learning. There's much more that I personally need to learn about the rich origins of lion and dragon dancing. To continue your journey, if you are in Vancouver or visiting, we do have a special display throughout the month of February. And so here you can see a few different styles of lions and dragons. We have the special fire dragon that was brought back to life by a very dedicated group of volunteers from the Fire Dragon Committee in Vancouver, Chinatown, supported by the City of Vancouver. And so you can learn about that. Next to it, we have the Chinese unicorn, or the Keilun, that was kindly loaned by the Hakka Association here in Vancouver, Chinatown. It's the only one of its kind that is danced in the parade. And so very special to learn more about the Chinese unicorn. And then following that is one of the jade lions from the Hsing Athletic Club. And so it's been great to see kids come down, families come down, all inspired to learn more about the mythical creature family. And as I mentioned, we have the virtual reality stations. But for those of you who are in other parts of the province, I think this is the great beginning of perhaps a longer series on unpacking these dances. And so wishing all of you as well a prosperous and healthy New Year.
And I guess a closing note here. I don't know about Danny over in Vancouver. I really enjoyed this. Lion dance is a passion of mine. My kids are doing it now, which funny, we were at the WHL hockey game last night for the Lunar New Year. So we had a couple of performances at the arena. But I just wanted to say that I'm open to doing another one of these. I had lots of fun doing this. And maybe even if we did one, it was more Q&A. And, you know, it's good. It kind of picks my brain and makes me kind of have to think about it. So if Danny would like to join me, I'd love to have him as a co-host. I had lots of fun today, and just to make this clear, I am not a I'm not a master of any sort. I'm just very passionate about it. So yeah, that's all I want to say.
Well, thanks for that generous offer, Daniel. And there's also a
You're a
question
master
here.
in my eyes, Daniel. You're a master in my eyes.
There's someone suggesting that we may do a program geared to school-age children as well.
Sorry, what was that?
There's a prompt here in the chat box that we may want to do a program geared to different ages of school children as well.
Well, I'm pretty sure Danny has the resources for that, because I'm sure we don't have that here in Victoria. We're very limited.
All right. Well, thank you all for tuning in. You have a very loyal following of 40 people who have stayed through the lunch hour.
Well, thank you, everybody.
Thank you all. This was very enjoyable.
Thank you, everybody.
Have a good night, everyone.
Happy New Year.